Hi, this is Richard Close. This is a meet and greet for Wesleyan Seminary School course. There's my plug right there. I will try to keep it as short as possibly can. Best way to do it is a media presentation to put as many words in there as I can. I grew up in Larchmont, New York. It's a upper class town, suburb of New York City. Many of our parents were leading media people, although my father was an engineer, my mother was a teacher. It was a very elite environment. You never had a care in the world, always safe. This is the church I grew up with, Episcopal Church. I was an acolyte there. I loved that church, the people in it, and would often talk to Jesus while I was sitting up in the altar waiting for the next thing to happen. I'm a child of the 60s. And as I grew up, I watched America burn with terrible convictions. I made it down to some of the protests in Washington, D.C., even in high school. It was the federal agents that were throwing bricks at cops. We tried to get them out, and they would beat us up, and we all got arrested. By high school, I was very frustrated with the world. One late night, I grabbed a big thing of ice cream, turned on the TV, and there was an old rerun of a Billy Graham when he did New York City in 1957. I put it on to make fun of him, but halfway through his sermon, I was on my knees crying to have Christ back into my heart the way it was as a young child. I went out and searched for that same feeling because the presence of God was powerful that night, and went around to many of the churches, including my own, and found nothing there. I found people dressed up in fancy robes, following lots of dogma, but the presence of God that I had in that room and that I had in that child was just simply not there. I went off searching in college, and I searched wide and near. I studied under various systems. I was one of the lead teachers under Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, which is the TM program. Because of my skills, they sent me off to teach Marine Corps, Air Force. I've taught Franciscan monks that handled metaphysical libraries and Catholic nuns. You name it, I got to see it all. I got to see a lot of very sincere people who loved a lot, and I got to see a lot of fakes. Along that path, a person introduced me to E. Stanley Jones. This was later on in life. In this book, Gandhi, The Portrayal of a Friend, is the primary book that Martin Luther King used. Matter of fact, it's in his library, and he says, "This is it. This is how we'll save America." Gandhi's Satyagraha, it means the March of Truth. Ahimsa means nonviolent protest. And it is modeled after the life of Christ. It's a fascinating book. Simple, short, give you a lot of truth. It was time to grow up, so I went off and did the corporate world, got married, 2 children, worked or consulted to most of the companies in search of excellence, was key speakers at conferences, was the person that coined the phrase that we would be doing search learning, relationship type learning for e-learning back in 2003. And keep in mind, Google and Facebook did not get IPOs until 2004. This went on for quite a while. After all that corporate strife, I've realized I had drifted, and I was baptized in a pool for the New Canaan Society, actually in a millionaire's pool on a cold Friday morning. When I went under, I said that I wanted the Lord to trash my life and jumpstart it all over from scratch to work for Him. The pastors pulled me up and said, "If we put you in the water and you do this, you know He'll do it." And I said, "Put me under." When I came out, the Lord asked me to take a woman I was living in sin with from Brooklyn to her roots. That led me to a place where all I knew, the ceiling fell down on the congregation. It was a storefront. It was very poor at the time, and she was the assistant to the pastor. That led me to here, Brooklyn Tabernacle. When I went in, I was overwhelmed. Try to do this without crying. When I went in, I was overwhelmed because everything I'd looked for of the evidence of Christ's teaching, people loving one another, the nations being together, praise from the bottom of their heart, and the presence, the intense presence of God was all there. Within 6 weeks, I lost absolutely everything. I lost the girl, I lost the house. Attorneys legally came in and wiped out my company, which was a consulting company. It was so bad once. No clients called me back, and I actually called myself on the phone to see if it was still connected at the Bridgeport Rescue Mission. So I lived and showered with the men, no special treatment. Went to their classes, ended up teaching some of the classes. But at that time, my spiritual gifts came in full force. We saw lots of miracles from intercessory prayer, the ability to interpret the Bible, all sorts of different things. And no, I don't speak in tongues. You don't have to. While I was there washing dishes one night, one of the board members came in and asked me if I had a passport, and I said yes. And he said, "Good, we're putting you on the next flight to Zambia." I said, "I don't have any money for that." He says, "Well, we were in prayer, and 3 of them came up with, we don't know how you'll pay us back, but somehow you will." This right here is the book that I wrote for the mission in that experience, which raised a chunk of money for them. When I landed in Zambia, this is a 10,000-acre mission with 7 villages, 300 people, and 50 farms on it. And it was launched by a teeny Damascus church in Maryland of only 150 people. This lady, Janice, I know quite well. When I was there, I was terrified. I was there with a whole mess of radical right Christians, evangelicals, who were in deep with the Bible, and I was still just a neophyte. And I went over in the back of the orphanage and sat with the women and ate, and which was kind of crazy to do. And they asked me if I would not tell the story of Africa, that when white people come, they really don't understand who they are. And that led to 4 trips to Africa, about 8,000 photographs, gallery, a couple of books, things like that. For that mission, I wrote a book on the Beatitudes. This is all up on sale for Amazon. It's not a plug. That went to a group in California. They put together a 40-foot-long container of medical equipment from hospitals and sent it into this clinic at this place. To give you an idea what that's like or what that means, after they unloaded, all the villages came out to unload the container that was guarded by guys with AK-47s at the top because Kenya was at war. The place lined up to go into the clinic to see what it felt like to lie in a bed. I returned and built 2 community learning centers for the men and the women in the Bridgeport Rescue Mission, developed curriculum, life skills curriculum, called the Life Skills of Jesus that were biblical. It was a great time. Went back to Africa on a UNESCO grant this is 2010, and that was about digital storytelling. This is way ahead of its time. It involved about 6 countries. The YouTube channel is still up and running, but I had to build the Ning cyber community along with the curriculum with that. Was asked later, way later, I think 2016, 18, to speak when the UN announced the Sustainable Development Goals, to do a lecture on how to develop massive, sustainable, collaborative learning programs. I was one of the strategists for the Microsoft certification program. I figured I'd crystallize all of this, and I went for a master's at Full Sail University. I was in a not very good relationship, and the female told me I'd never have a church. So I went into this, and I developed this master's. At the end of this course, you will see you will hear all the sounds of the Rift Valley of Africa. Why teach in Africa? I'll give you an idea of where I'm at. Was walking down, moved up to Massachusetts, was walking down the street, heard a song from BT in this 1834 First United Methodist Church. They greeted me with such smiles at the door, met with the pastor, and the following service they anointed me to take over their prayer band and their Bible study programs. So that leaves me where I am right now. I'm an old fart, and I realize that. Please, none of this is bragging. It really, really isn't. If you live with the Lord inside of you, just as Paul experienced and Jesus experienced, along with all the great glories and successes and the healings and all of that type of stuff, there is much more suffering. There is much more seeing the people that don't get it, the people that are angry for you to bring it to them, the ones that throw stones. So if you choose this path, failure is a big part of that path, and managing that failure is a big part of that path. But you're with the glory of God, and no one understands that process more than Jesus, and he carries you through that. So the one piece of advice I would give, the way I would look at this course, that it's all about your relationship with Jesus. And if you have to trust your exegesis or your statistical analysis of your local community, and the Lord wakes you up at 4 o'clock in the morning with something different, always go with the Lord. It's your relationship with him that will make you one of his disciples. So ask God, but you got to listen, and then you got to do it, and then prepare for anything that comes at you. This is when I was doing a leadership training. This is Kenya Rift Valley, and I just waved the camera. And every single time I took one of these photographs, I said, Lord, show people what you want them to see, how you see the world. And the people of Kenya are absolutely beautiful. So with that, see you later in the course. This will be my last course with Indiana Wesleyan University. Many of you I've grown to love and respect, and really honor your comments and all of your blogs. And with that, my prayer is that the Lord walks with you and you walk with him closely. Amen. In the remote Kenyan Rift Valley of Kitale, the purpose-driven church has built a life between a church and a town. In a unique model for every paid student they take on a street child. In a place racked with poverty and wars, learning thrives and lives are transformed. Education in the African culture is more of a collaborative social process. Unlike U.S. education's culture of individual competition leading for financial success, their learning is a gift, blessing, ticket out of desperation, and a way to be a contributor to the community. It is pride. The purpose-driven school is a haven for changing lives. Funded mostly through local town people in Kitale, Margaret and Moses understand that learning is a social process between students and the needs of the community. Plagued by lack of funds, facilities, and opportunities at graduation, students are motivated by faith and community connection. Not unlike much of African schools, 3 children share a desk, 1 workbook, while others stand in the back. When tired from standing, they rotate into seats. And yet, to be at school is a huge honor. One time, a few weeks before the election and tribal wars, I was helping a leadership training program. A monsoon drowned out our talk on the tin roof, and so we burst into song until it passed. After about 3 songs, it did. Listen to the onslaught of praise and song against the pounding on the roof. The purpose-driven school embraces a world of tribal wars. refugees from Sudan, genocide, orphans, the abused from extreme poverty, the school offers a safe place, guidance, skills, and hope. It is the safe field of faith that deep transformation and hopelessness of spirit can take place. Often the best way to transform a community is through song. Listen to the message of these young women, bringing their message to the community to support them.
Watching people of all kinds, my mommy and daddy, my best friends always. They wanted me to grow spiritually, be a better person in future. But do you know this was only a wish, that even today we still wish, and wish. Dear mommy and daddy, we watch you daily. Every day we long for someone to encourage us. Mommy, do you know we have
In the 1920s industrialized education system of the U.S., educators like Dewey and Lindemann warned us that learning was in fact a social process, something that Africa has known all along. So why don't you come and help and teach in Africa? You'll never be the same ever again.